Hey everyone, Leanne here from Kingdom Bloggers. So a few people were really excited with my last video about ChatGPT brainstorming ideas and had questions about really diving into creating the Bible reading plans and the Bible study journals that I've been creating for women of the Bible and the parables. So I figured I'd make a video to show you kind of my exact process on how I create them. And hopefully you can use that to start creating some of your own. These study journals are so helpful. I get so much feedback, emails and DMs from people who've downloaded just my free ones alone. Actually, I think I made my free ones a little too good. But they're seeming to provide exactly what people are wanting when they're doing their Bible study. And so, whether you're using them as a lead magnet to get subscribers, or you're simply creating some great resources to give your subscribers that you have already for free, or to put as a supplement to your blog post, or if you're trying to create some actual products to sell on Etsy and Gumroad and places like that, this is the process that I've been using. So we're going to hop over to ChatGPT. Now I do have the paid version. I just started using it recently, but I'm going to show you the free versions, which was what most of my stuff was made with, so that you can see that you don't need to upgrade in order to create this stuff. Okay. So as you can see over here on my left side, every project that you do, once you're finished, it'll save it here so you can go back to it. This is really important for you to understand. Everything that you create in here, you want to keep projects completely independent of each other. And what I mean by that is if you think of each project as a conversation that has been primed from the beginning and you're giving it more, it's almost like you have your assistant and she's working on a very specific project. And as she's working through it, you want to add some other pieces or elements to it. She's going to remember everything else she's already done on the project so that she can twist and turn and make the adjustments as necessary. It's the same inside of ChatGPT and other AI software as well. It remembers everything you've already discussed in this conversation. So if you're working on, say, a devotional or let's say a Bible study journal, then keep it to the Bible study journal. Now, you can do multiple journals in one conversation. That way it remembers the format. So when I go back through some of mine, the title of it over here on the left might say Sarah's Bible Study Journal. But when you open it up, the last conversation part of it is Hagar or Rebecca, because I continue on. When I get done with one woman, then I'll start with the next one using the exact same prompt. This way, it remembers the format because if I start a brand new conversation for the next woman, sometimes it'll put it in a little different format. And when I'm doing these journals, I really want them to follow the same format. So, but if you're going from, say, Bible study, Women of the Bible journals, and then now you want to do a project for a 30-day Bible reading plan, you would want to start a brand new conversation for that reading plan. Okay. All right. So the most important part is to start with priming it. You need to tell it who it is, like what position does it hold. Literally think of this as though you're talking to your assistant, okay? Who she is and for what purpose. So in this scenario, you are a Christian blogger who creates short Bible studies to help people better understand the Bible. Create an outline for a Bible study on Sarah that also includes the specific passages of scripture to study. Now, I want to tell you, when you first start using this, it may take you a few times, like it's going to spit something out. You may have to give it a little more information, and then it'll regurgitate it into a better format until it gets used to you and what you want. You're basically training this thing to understand your needs and your little intricacies and how you like things written, what voice and things like that. But priming it with the position, as so here it says you're a Christian blogger, that's important because the tone and the words that would be used by a blogger would be different than if I said you are the pastor of a church. You are a Bible scholar, right? the kind of words and terminology that would be used would be completely different. And so it's important that you tell it from which perspective it's going to be writing. All right, so we're just going to hit enter here. So I'm starting with an outline, okay? So it's going to spit out this really great outline. And then what I will do is, so here, okay, so introduction, background, faith and struggles, the birth of Isaac, Sarah's legacy, and applications. So now what I'm going to do is say, write a brief, if I could type here, summary of, or let's say overview, brief overview and summary of Sarah's background. Let's just go that route. So basically for each of the sections, I'm going to ask it to write a short or brief summary or overview. You can play around with the words until it gives you what you want. And I'm going to do that for each of these line items. So background, faith and struggles, and so forth. And so it breaks everything down. And so the next one will be Sarah's faith and struggles. So I'm going to say, actually, I like to copy and paste just because my nails cause issues with typing. So I'm going to copy paste. Oh, that's the wrong one. Overview, copy of Sarah's faith and struggles. And so we'll see what it gives us here. And so it actually breaks it down in bullet points, which I like. Now, here's the thing. As you're going through this, because you're going to be starting from scratch. So this thing already knows the kind of words I want it to use, what tone, because I've been using it for a while. But let's say as you're reading this, Sarah's faith journey begins with the heart-wrenching struggle of infertility. She and her husband on for a child. So right now on this one, it's written in pretty good terms, right? Like this is understandable. But let's say when you're reading it, you're like, this is a little dry. This is a little not casual. It's using words like underscores or therefore or furthermore, right? Nobody uses those words. All you have to do is come down. And so the next prompt that you would give it would be to simply say or type, rewrite in a more casual or tone, rewrite in layman's terms, right? So you may need to tell it a rewrite a couple of times until it starts understanding the voice that you want it to give you the information as, okay? So don't get frustrated if as you begin this that it's like, wow, this is just not giving, it's too scholarly or it's too robotic like in the words that it's using. Okay, so we're going to continue on. I'm not going to go through all of these for the sake of time, but you get the gist here. You're going to go for each one of these sections, just say, write a brief summary, brief overview, and so forth. Now, I'm going to show you, so these are all the women that I've been working on. So how I do mine, I have a free version, and then I have a paid version of the printable. And then I also create my paid version in both a printable and a clickable digital format for iPad. And so let's just start with Hagar here, just so I can show you. So that is that one. And then back up here. And this one. So my study questions, so I just make a pretty template and then I duplicate the template for each new woman, change the color pattern, so forth. And so here, this has just the what verses. And so that's one thing that you would tell it. And I would do this after I've done all the sections. So I would then say, where in the Bible do I read about, oh wait, I'm in the wrong one. There we go. Where in the Bible do I read about Sarah's story? And so then it will give me these. Usually it'll say the verse and then a little bit of this is what happens in this part of the story. And so for me particular, I have blog posts on my site that are ranking for each of the women. So I also include a clickable link here. Now, if you don't have the blog content, then you wouldn't do this, but I already had all that from before. So I figure why not try to get some traffic while I'm at it, especially since these are free. And so the other page is simply the study and reflection questions. And so for that, I'm literally going to take, so there's a breakdown of Sarah's, each part of Sarah's story. So here I'm going to say, write a, or create, let's say create, of 10 Bible study questions and 5 reflection questions for about Sarah's story. And so that's how I got, where are we at here? The question. Let me zoom in on this. And these are really good questions. They're very specific to her story. And this is the part that I think a lot of the people who have downloaded my studies are the feedback that I get is that they are specific to the study. They're not the standard, what does this verse tell you about God's character? Not that we don't want to know that, but when you're really trying to understand this person, this woman's story in particular, or maybe the parables or some of the story, I need questions that relate directly to this. Like I need to understand why she did this and what was meant by that and so forth. And then the same with the reflection, it's tied directly to the things happening in her particular story. So and that's why I love these reflection and study questions. So this is the free version. My paid version takes on a little bit different. So here's all the different where we went through each section of the outline. And so I literally just put it on these simple pages. Some women's stories have a little more than others. And then the final thing that I would ask it after I'm done with all the sections and everything else, I would say, what are some lessons to learn from Sarah's life? And then another would be, what are 10 practical applications or something like that, right? So I want lessons learned and practical application for her story. And so I have lessons from Hagar's life and then the practical application. And you can see it breaks it down really good. And again, you can, if you don't like how it's worded, once you do that one, just say rewrite in a more casual term or rewrite in layman's terms or whatever. And then on mine, I actually, these questions, so the free version for mine, they just get this sheet, but on my paid version, they get the sheet plus these worksheets that already have the questions on them. And that's important because in the digital version of the journal, they can just write their answers to the questions right there in their iPad. So this is just how I do mine. And so when I start a new one, I just come in and duplicate the 3. And then I go through and edit the color, the aesthetics, and then copy and paste the new text in each one. It's actually a really simple process to duplicate and make the new one. So I'm just going to kind of show you also. So here was my original Sarah. You can see the summaries. Then I started Naomi. So I continue with all of them in the same conversation. So that maintains the format. Here's some that I did for, let's see, let me go back up here. I started my parable series doing the same thing. I started with create an outline for a short Bible study on the parable of whatever. So that's how I always start these. So that creates me an outline first. And then from that outline, I ask for brief summaries for each of the individual sections. Okay. I just finished up this scripture writing plan. And these are really, really popular. These are the basically a Bible reading plan for the month. Some people call them scripture writing plans because they want to write them out, but they're basically the same thing. And so these are super, super popular, especially in January, but also the top of the month because people are looking for a new reading plan. They do really, really well on Pinterest as well. And so I just said, hey, give me a list of 12 topics, one for each month of the year that will serve as a basis for a scripture writing challenge. But again, I said, you are a Christian blogger who creates resources and so forth. So you have to prime it. So I started with giving me a list of topics. That's the first part because you need a topic for each month. And then continuing on in the conversation, for each month, create a list of verses to write. The number of verses should match the number of days in the respective month. And this year, February has 29 days. So I told it February should have 29 days. Okay. So it gives me all that. So then I'm going to go down and I'm going to say, basically, I'm like, give me one study question and one reflection questions for each of the verses. And so it repeats the verses and gives me the study questions. So I did that for each month. You could just say for February, give me that for March and so forth. It'll remember the topic of that month's plan. Then let's scroll down here. I wanted to add a prayer for the month. I mean, I could do a short prayer, but I really wanted one longer, a nice thought out prayer. So I just asked it. Let me go back up to January here. Write a prayer for the January plan. Again, it's remembering that January is new beginnings and God's promises. So it remembers the conversation. And then I would do that for each month. And then I also wanted to add a one-page devotional reading for that month's plan. And so I just started. So first I did all the prayers. Then I said, write a short devotional reading for January's plan, and then for February and so forth. And so here is that. It gave me a prayer with it too, but I didn't use the prayer because I already had the longer prayer from before. And so that's it. Same thing in Canva. I had a template that I was using. And so I would just duplicate, copy the text in there. And then I save those as, if I include links, then it's a, clickable PDF. But either way, I save it as a regular PDF, not flattened. If you flatten it, the clickable links will not work. So if you do have links in it, don't flatten it. And this is how I deliver them. So again, start with your prompt, tell it who it is and what position it's holding. Let me hop back over here. So you are a Christian blogger, Christian writer, so forth. You write whatever. So you write devotionals for, you write short Bible studies for. And if you are more in the layman's kind of way, then say for Christian women who are fairly new to reading the Bible, for Christian men who just started reading the Bible. The point is here to be as specific as possible. Like literally, if you just hired this new assistant, they know nothing about you, nothing about your business and what you're doing and who it's for. They don't know any of that. So you have to continue telling it and feed it this information. But once you feed it that information, it's going to retain it in that conversation and remember it as it keeps. So you don't have to keep saying it over and over. It'll remember what you've already told it. So who it is, the position that it's holding, Christian writer, Christian blogger, Christian YouTuber, if you're doing YouTube stuff. And then for what purpose? Then begin with the simple. So for this purposes of this video, you are a Christian blogger, and I will put this in the notes down below as well. I'll put a few of these on there. You're a Christian blogger who creates the Bible studies and for women. Okay. But then it goes into it. Create an outline for whatever it is, for a short Bible study on Hagar, for a short Bible study on parable of whatever, for a 29-day or for a 12-month Bible reading plan where each month has a verse for each day of the month, right? That coincides with the number of days in that month. Be as specific as possible in what you want it to produce. Then once it gives you the framework, the outline, the list of scriptures, then you begin adding the other pieces, okay? And as I said before, as you're going along, if you're not liking the tone of it, just tell it, rewrite in layman's terms, rewrite in a more formal or casual. Now, funny story. So I was on a call last night with some women in my one of my mastermind groups, and she's been using it quite often. And she was getting frustrated because the output it was giving her for this project she was working on, it was still using some words that wasn't really, I don't think, maybe she probably didn't quite prime it right, I'm guessing, because so far it's been really good when I've primed it. But it was still giving it to her in a dry overview kind of way, not as from a Christian perspective. So, and what I mean by that, you'll see words like this follows the biblical narrative of whatever, or this follows the belief by most Christians that whatever. Well, we would never write words like that because it's not a narrative. It's not, it's not a story. I mean, this is the real living truth, right? So we want our words to be reflective of that. And so anyway, it wasn't giving her that. It was more like Wikipedia giving her an output. And so she scolded it. She was like, "You are not being very helpful." Literally, she said, this is what she typed in there. "You are not being very helpful. You are writing this from a worldview, not a Christian perspective, blah, blah, blah." And so it responded, "I am so sorry. Here, let me reword that." And then from that point on, it started giving it to her in the correct voice, I guess is the best way, perspective. So don't be afraid to scold it. But more importantly, it's all about the prompts that you're giving it. Tell it from the beginning that it is writing from a Christian perspective. I've had to say rewrite from a Christian perspective on a few projects I was working on. So don't get frustrated in the tone because it's a computer, okay? And it is just a generic tone based on what it finds on the internet. You can tell it, literally, you could tell it to rewrite this in the voice of a surfer, and it would rewrite it, and you would be like, oh my gosh, a surfer totally talks like this. Okay. um, you can teach it to write in your own voice by, saying, please rewrite this passage in a tone similar to this passage, and copy and paste what something you've already written that's in very much your voice, and it will start picking up on those nuances. So anyway, I hope this was helpful. These scripture writing plans, Bible reading plans, study journals, the study journals, y'all, I can't stress how important these are. People want to understand the Bible, but they want them in digestible words, like stuff they can understand. Okay, I read her sermon. What does that mean for me? Like, I don't, like, that's great. That was like a million years ago. What does that mean for me now in the season that I'm going through? And so having these very specific questions, but also a breakdown, like you read a verse from the Bible and you don't really quite understand the context. Like, and that's why the historical context and background of each character, if you're doing character studies, I can read the verse, I can read it in 5 different Bible translations. I still don't understand the bigger what's going on. And so providing those little tidbits, like the Life Application Study Bible gives you some context for you to help you understand it. This is what people need so that they can better understand the rest of the story. Not like Paul Harvey, right? The rest of the story. Some of y'all should know what that means. So anyway, if you have any questions at all, drop your comments below, hop over to my Facebook group. I would love to help you with getting the right prompts and so forth. But this tool has just been so, so helpful for me to get, I mean, Bible study is still something I obviously do for myself, but putting, like, reading it and reframing it into something that makes sense, my brain just doesn't work that way. And so I really love that this thing is giving us accurate, like yes, I double check everything that it gives me. I'll go back to my Bible and I'll check it. So far, I have not had any issues where it's giving me information that's misleading, that is contrary to biblical thought, like, the narrative according to it. I hate that word. I verify the verses to make sure they are the correct ones. And so far, it's been 100% accurate. So, but again, it all comes down to the prompts that you're giving it. So anyway, that's all. I'll stop rambling now. I would love to hear your feedback. But more importantly, I would love to make sure that you guys are using this and being fruitful with it. And any way that I can help, please let me know. All right, everyone, I will talk to you in the next video. Bye-bye.